My name is Greg Foster, and I'm about to tell you how I discovered my wife was running what I can only describe as a personal service out of our bedroom. The funny thing is, I almost missed it entirely. For months, our marriage had felt like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Sandra would come home from her job at the fitness center acting like she'd just completed a triathlon, exhausted and distant. She'd head straight for the shower, claiming she was stressed from dealing with difficult clients all day. The excuse was getting old, especially since she'd been using it 3 times a week for the past 4 months. I work in IT for a mid-sized insurance company downtown. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills and gives me access to some interesting equipment. When your job involves setting up security systems for office buildings, you learn a thing or two about surveillance technology. More importantly, you learn how to get your hands on it without asking too many questions. The idea came to me on a Tuesday morning in March. Sandra had just finished another one of her elaborate shower rituals after coming home early from work to grab some files. She was humming in there, actually humming, which struck me as odd since she'd been claiming to be miserable at work for weeks. When she emerged, wrapped in her favorite blue towel, she looked refreshed in a way that had nothing to do with hot water and soap. "Good shower?" I asked, not looking up from my laptop. "Amazing," she said, then caught herself. Yeah, it was fine. Just needed to wash off the gym smell." But here's the thing about Sandra. She never went to the gym on Tuesdays. Her membership card was sitting right there on the kitchen counter where she'd left it the night before. Small detail, but I notice small details. It's what makes me good at my job. That afternoon, I made a decision that would change everything. I stopped by the office supply room and picked up a few items that weren't exactly on my requisition list. 3 wireless cameras, each about the size of a smoke detector battery. The kind we use to monitor server rooms and storage areas. The kind that stream directly to a smartphone app and store everything in the cloud. Installing them was easier than I'd expected. One went behind the living room bookshelf, angled to capture the front door and most of the downstairs area. Another found its way into the bedroom, hidden inside an old alarm clock on my nightstand. The third went in the kitchen, tucked behind the coffee maker where it had a clear view of the back door. The whole setup took me less than an hour on Wednesday evening while Sandra was at her book club. At least, that's where she said she was going. These days, I wasn't taking anything at face value. For the first 2 weeks, the cameras showed me exactly what I expected to see. Sandra coming and going at normal times, doing normal things. Me, looking increasingly paranoid as I checked the app every few minutes from my desk at work. I started to wonder if I was losing my mind, if the stress of our failing marriage was making me imagine problems that didn't exist. Then came Thursday, March 28th. A date I'll never forget. I was sitting in my cubicle, half-heartedly working on a network security audit, when my phone buzzed with a motion alert from the home cameras. It was 2:17 p.m. Sandra wasn't supposed to be home for another 3 hours. The living room camera showed her walking through the front door, but she wasn't alone. Behind her was a man I'd never seen before, tall, dark hair, wearing a business suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. They weren't talking, just moving through the house with the kind of familiarity that made my stomach drop. I watched them disappear up the stairs toward the bedroom. My hands were shaking as I switched to the bedroom camera feed. What I saw next confirmed every suspicion I'd been harboring and destroyed any remaining illusion about my marriage. For the next hour and 15 minutes, I watched my wife of 8 years have enthusiastic, passionate intimacy with a complete stranger in our bed. The bed where she'd been too tired to do anything more than give me a quick goodnight kiss for the past 6 months. When they finished, the man got dressed quickly and left through the back door, a detail that suggested this wasn't his first visit. Sandra stripped the bed, threw the sheets in the washer, and took another one of her long, thorough showers. By the time I got home at 6:30, she was in the kitchen making dinner, acting like she'd just gotten home from work herself. "How was your day?" she asked, kissing my cheek with the same lips that had been doing very different things a few hours earlier. "Same old stuff," I replied, amazed at how normal my voice sounded. "How about you? Busy day at the gym?" "Oh, you know how it is. Difficult clients, equipment problems. I'm exhausted." We ate dinner and watched television like nothing had happened. Sandra even suggested we watch a romantic comedy, something she hadn't done in months. The irony wasn't lost on me. That night, lying next to her in our bed with fresh sheets, I realized I was experiencing something I'd never felt before. It wasn't just anger or hurt. It was a cold, calculating clarity. For the first time in months, I knew exactly what was happening in my marriage. The question was what I was going to do about it. The next day brought another surprise. At 3:45 p.m., the motion alert chimed again. This time it was a different man, younger, more muscular, wearing workout clothes that showed off his physique. I recognized him immediately. Jason Torres, one of the personal trainers from Sandra's gym, the same Jason she'd mentioned several times as being really helpful with my fitness goals. I'll bet he was helpful. The routine was identical. They went straight upstairs, spent over an hour in the bedroom, then he left through the back door while Sandra cleaned up all evidence of his visit. When I got home, she was once again the picture of innocence, complaining about her stressful day and how demanding her job was becoming. Over the next 2 weeks, I documented everything. The cameras revealed a pattern that was both shocking and methodical. Tuesdays and Thursdays were reserved for the man in the expensive suit. I later figured out his name was David Chen, a real estate developer who lived in the upscale part of town. Fridays rotated between Jason the trainer and 2 other men, our next-door neighbor Mike Peterson, which explained why he'd been so friendly lately, and someone I eventually identified as Sandra's boss at the fitness center, a married man named Robert Walsh. 4 different men, a regular schedule. My wife was running her affairs like a small business, and our house was her office. The most disturbing part wasn't the cheating itself, it was how good she was at lying about it. Every evening she'd come home and perform the role of the stressed, tired wife with Academy Award-worthy conviction. She'd complain about work, ask about my day, suggest we order takeout because she was too exhausted to cook. Meanwhile, I'd spent my afternoon watching her have more energy and enthusiasm in 1 hour than she'd shown me in 6 months. I started taking screenshots, saving video files, documenting times and dates. Not because I was planning to use them in court, we didn't have enough assets to make divorce lawyers rich, but because I needed proof that I wasn't going insane. The evidence was mounting into an undeniable mountain of betrayal. By the middle of April, I had collected enough material to fill a small hard drive. Videos, photos, timestamps, license plate numbers of the cars that parked in our driveway while I was at work. I knew the schedule better than Sandra did. I could predict which man would show up on which day with 90% accuracy. But I still hadn't said a word to her about any of it. The silence was strategic. Every day that passed, every lie she told, every fake kiss and manufactured excuse was being recorded for posterity. I was building a case, but not for a lawyer. I was preparing for something much more personal and satisfying than legal proceedings. The breaking point came on a Saturday morning in late April. Sandra was in the kitchen making coffee, humming the same tune she'd been humming after her stressful days for weeks. She was wearing her favorite weekend outfit, yoga pants and a tank top that showed off the figure she'd been sharing with half the neighborhood. "Greg," she said without turning around, "I've been thinking we should talk about our marriage." My blood pressure spiked. "What about it?" "I feel like we've been drifting apart lately. Maybe we should consider counseling or something." The audacity was breathtaking. She was suggesting marriage counseling while running a 4-man rotation through our bedroom. I almost laughed out loud. Instead, I walked over to the television and picked up the remote control. "You know what, Sandra? I think you're right. We should definitely talk about our marriage. In fact, I've prepared a little presentation. She turned around, coffee mug in hand, looking puzzled. A presentation? I think you'll find it very educational. I turned on the TV and navigated to the media folder I'd been preparing for weeks. The first video file was labeled Tuesday Afternoon Highlights. The second was Thursday Special Features. Friday through Sunday had their own folders, organized by date and participant. "What are you doing?" Sandra asked, but something in my tone must have warned her. She was no longer humming. "Remember how you said you forgot to mention that book club was canceled last week?" I clicked on the first file. "Well, I forgot to mention something too." The screen filled with a high-definition view of our living room, timestamp showing 2:17 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon 3 weeks earlier. Sandra appeared in the frame, followed by David Chen in his expensive suit. The coffee mug slipped from Sandra's hand and shattered on the kitchen floor. "I forgot to mention the cameras I installed," I said, my voice remarkably steady. "Funny how things slip your mind sometimes." Sandra stood frozen in the kitchen doorway, coffee spreading across the tile floor at her feet, staring at the television screen where her affair was playing out in full color. The timestamp in the corner showed 2:17 p.m., a Tuesday afternoon when she was supposed to be at work dealing with difficult clients. "Turn it off," she whispered. I clicked to the next video. Thursday, 3:45 p.m. Jason the trainer, removing his workout clothes with practiced efficiency. "Turn it off," she said louder, rushing toward me. I held up the remote, keeping it out of her reach. "But we haven't gotten to the Friday rotation yet. That's where it gets really interesting." She lunged for the remote, but I stepped aside. 8 years of marriage had taught me her moves. "You want to see your boss? Or should we skip straight to the neighbor? Mike's performance was particularly enthusiastic last week." "You sick bastard!" Sandra's face had gone from pale to bright red. "You've been spying on me." "Spying?" I laughed, and the sound surprised me with its bitterness. "Sandra, this is our house, our bedroom. I installed security cameras in my own home. What you did in front of them was your choice." She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks in black streaks. "How long have you been watching?" 6 weeks, 2 days, and about 14 hours of footage. I had the numbers memorized. "Want to know your statistics?" David Chen holds the record for longest visit, 2 hours and 7 minutes last Thursday. Jason's got the most frequent visits. Mike from next door wins for most creative locations. Apparently our kitchen table is more versatile than I realized. "Stop it!" She covered her face with her hands. "Just stop!" But I was just getting started. 6 weeks of watching my wife betray me had built up a lot of pressure, and now the valve was finally open. You know what the really impressive part is? The scheduling. You've got this down to a science. Tuesdays and Thursdays for David, Fridays rotating between the others. You even coordinate their arrival and departure times so they don't run into each other. It's like watching a small business operation. Sandra dropped her hands and glared at me through her tears. "You want to know why? You really want to know?" "Oh, this should be good. Please enlighten me." "Because you stopped caring," she screamed. "When's the last time you touched me? When's the last time you made me feel like a woman instead of a roommate?" I pointed the remote at the TV, where Friday's footage was now playing. "Looks like you were feeling pretty womanly last week. In fact, you were feeling womanly 4 different ways." "That's not what I meant, and you know it. What I know is that instead of talking to me about problems in our marriage, you decided to audition replacements. 4 of them. Did you plan to narrow it down eventually, or was this more of a permanent arrangement?" She wiped her nose with the back of her hand, leaving a streak of mascara on her wrist. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." "How was it supposed to happen? Were you planning to tell me eventually, or was I just supposed to figure it out when I came home early and found the neighbor in our bed?" "It started with David," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I met him at the coffee shop downtown. He was charming and attentive, and made me feel special. It was just supposed to be once. But once wasn't enough. He made me remember what it felt like to be desired. Really desired, not just convenient. The word hit me like a slap. Convenient? Is that what I am to you? When's the last time you surprised me, Greg? When's the last time you planned a date or brought me flowers or made me feel like you actually wanted to be married to me? I felt my anger wavering, which made me even angrier. So this is my fault? I work 45 hours a week to pay for this house. I do my share of the housework. I don't drink or gamble or stay out all night with friends. But because I don't bring you flowers, you decided to start a personal harem? It's not a harem. What would you call it? A book club? She flinched. The others just happened. Jason was helping me with my workouts, and he was so encouraging and positive. Mike was there when I needed someone to talk to about us. Robert understands the stress of my job. And they all understand it horizontally, apparently. Don't be crude. Crude? I laughed again, and this time it sounded slightly hysterical even to me. Sandra, I've spent 6 weeks watching my wife have intimacy with 4 different men in our bed. I think I've earned the right to be a little crude. She sat down heavily on the couch, her head in her hands. What happens now? It was a good question. I'd spent so much time documenting her betrayal that I hadn't really thought about what came next. Divorce seemed obvious, but the practical details felt overwhelming. We'd have to sell the house, split our minimal assets, figure out who got the car payments and credit card debt. It would be messy and expensive and take months to sort out. I don't know, I admitted. Can we try to work this out? I stared at her. Work it out? Sandra, you've been cheating on me with 4 different men for months. You've been lying to my face every single day. You've been having intimacy with our neighbor, your boss, your trainer, and some random real estate guy in our bed while I was at work. What exactly do you think we're going to work out? I could stop seeing them. We could go to counseling. I could make this right. Which one would you stop seeing first? David? He seems to be your favorite. Longest visits, most expensive gifts. Or maybe Jason. He's the youngest, probably the most athletic. Oh wait, I know. You'd probably keep Mike because he's convenient. Right next door, easy access. That's not fair. Fair? My voice was getting louder. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been talking to me about problems in our marriage before you started auditioning my replacements. Fair would have been giving me a chance to bring you flowers before you decided to get them from 4 other men. Fair would have been honesty instead of 6 months of elaborate lies. She was crying harder now, her whole body shaking. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But people make mistakes, Greg. People can change. Mistakes? Sandra, this wasn't a mistake. You didn't accidentally trip and fall onto 4 different men. You planned this. You scheduled it. You've been living a double life for months, and the only reason we're having this conversation is because I caught you. So what? You're just going to divorce me? Throw away 8 years of marriage? You already threw it away. I'm just acknowledging reality. She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. There has to be something, some way to fix this. I thought about it for a moment. 6 weeks of watching her betray me. 6 weeks of lies and fake kisses and manufactured exhaustion. 6 weeks of feeling like an idiot in my own house while she entertained her rotation of lovers. There is something, I said finally. Hope flickered in her eyes. What? You can explain to me which one you love. What do you mean? I picked up the remote and clicked through the video files. David, Jason, Mike, or Robert. Which one are you in love with? Because that's the only way this makes sense to me. If you fell in love with someone else, at least I could understand it. But 4 different men? That's not love, Sandra. That's not even lust. That's just shopping. She opened her mouth to answer, then closed it again. That's what I thought, I said. You can't explain which one because it's not about them. It's about you wanting to feel special and desired and important, and you decided to get that feeling from as many sources as possible. That's not true. Then explain it to me. Make me understand how the woman I married turned into someone who could lie to my face every day while running a 4-man rotation through our bedroom. She was quiet for a long time, staring at her hands. When she finally spoke, her voice was small and defeated. I don't know how to explain it. It started small and just grew. Each one gave me something different. David made me feel sophisticated. Jason made me feel young and attractive. Mike made me feel understood. Robert made me feel valued at work. And what did I make you feel? Safe, she said without hesitation. Secure? Like I had a foundation? Past tense? She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. I don't know anymore. I turned off the television and set the remote on the coffee table. Well, that's honest at least. What happens now? She asked again. Now you get to experience what it feels like when your foundation disappears, I said. Because I'm done being your safety net while you go bungee jumping with half the neighborhood. Greg, please. I'm going to Alex's bar, I interrupted. When I come back, I'd like you to be somewhere else. I don't care where, David's place, Jason's apartment, Mike's house next door, or Robert's office. You've got plenty of options. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the door. How long? She called after me. How long what? How long do I have to stay away? I paused with my hand on the doorknob. I don't know, Sandra. How long did you think you could keep this up before I found out? I never wanted you to find out. I know, I said. That's the problem. Alex's bar was exactly what I needed. Dark, quiet, and populated by people who had their own problems to worry about. I'd been coming here for years, long before I met Sandra, and Alex had seen me through enough life crises to know when to talk and when to just keep the beer coming. Rough day? He asked, setting a cold bottle in front of me without being asked. Rough 6 weeks, I said, taking a long drink. Sandra's been cheating on me. Alex whistled low. Sorry, man, how'd you find out? I installed cameras in the house and watched it happen, multiple times, with multiple guys. Jesus. Alex leaned against the bar, his expression shifting from sympathy to concern. How many guys? 4. 4? At the same time? Different days. She had a schedule. Alex was quiet for a moment, processing this information. What are you going to do? I don't know. Divorce her, I guess. Sell the house. Start over at 40. You could fight for it. Make her life hell in court. I shook my head. We don't have enough money to make lawyers rich. Besides, what's the point? I just want out. What about the other guys? They know about each other? I doubt it. Sandra's good at compartmentalizing. Each one probably thinks he's special. Alex refilled my beer without being asked. You should tell them. Why? Because they deserve to know what they're involved in, and because it might be satisfying to watch her world fall apart when they find out they're sharing. I hadn't thought about that. For 6 weeks, I'd been focused on documenting Sandra's betrayal, but I hadn't considered the broader implications. David probably thought he was having an affair with an unhappily married woman. Jason likely believed he was helping Sandra through a rough patch in her marriage. Mike next door might think he was being a supportive friend who happened to be getting lucky. Robert probably saw it as a simple workplace affair. None of them knew about the others. That's actually not a bad idea, I said. Course it's not. I'm full of good ideas. That's why I'm a bartender instead of a customer. My phone buzzed with a text message. Sandra. Where am I supposed to go? I showed the message to Alex. She wants to know where to go. Tell her to ask David, or Jason, or Mike, or what's his name? Robert. Right. Tell her to ask Robert. I typed back, You've got 4 options. Pick one. Her response came immediately. This is my house too. Not anymore, I replied. Alex watched me text and shook his head. She's got balls, I'll give her that. Cheating on you with 4 guys and then acting like she's the victim. She thinks it's my fault. Says I stopped making her feel special. So instead of talking to you about it, she decided to feel special with the neighbor, the trainer, the boss, and some random dude. Real estate developer. Even worse, those guys are all scumbags. My phone buzzed again. I'm staying at Rachel's tonight. We need to talk tomorrow. Rachel was Sandra's best friend and biggest enabler. If Sandra was looking for sympathy and validation, Rachel's place was the perfect choice. Rachel had been divorced twice and had strong opinions about men in general and husbands in particular. She's going to her friend Rachel's, I told Alex. The one who hates you? That's the one. Great. So now you're going to be the bad guy who drove poor Sandra into the arms of 4 other men. I'm already the bad guy. Apparently, I'm boring and unromantic, and I treat her like a roommate. Alex snorted. You work full-time, pay the bills, do housework, and don't cheat on her. Yeah, you're a real monster. We drank in comfortable silence for a while. The bar was filling up with the usual Saturday evening crowd. Couples on dates, groups of friends celebrating something or drowning their sorrows, solitary drinkers like me working through personal disasters. You know what the worst part is? I said eventually. What? I actually feel guilty. Like maybe if I'd been more attentive or romantic or exciting, this wouldn't have happened. That's bullshit, and you know it. Is it? When's the last time I brought her flowers? When's the last time I planned a surprise date or wrote her a love letter or did any of the things I used to do when we were dating? When's the last time she did any of those things for you? I thought about it. I don't remember. Exactly. Marriage is a two-way street, Greg. You can't be the only one responsible for keeping the romance alive. But maybe if I'd tried harder, maybe if you'd tried harder, she would have had 5 guys instead of 4. Stop blaming yourself for her choices. Alex was right, but guilt is a stubborn emotion. I'd spent 8 years trying to be a good husband, but apparently I'd failed in ways I didn't even understand. The evidence was clear. My wife had been so unhappy with me that she'd sought satisfaction from 4 different men. I should have seen it coming, I said. How? She was lying to you every day. She had a whole system worked out. You're not a mind reader. The signs were there. The distance, the excuses, the late nights. I knew something was wrong. Knowing something's wrong and knowing your wife is running a 4-man rotation are 2 different things. Most guys would assume she was stressed at work or going through a rough patch. You installed cameras because you're paranoid and work in IT. Lucky me. Yeah, lucky you. At least you know the truth now. Some guys live their whole lives not knowing. My phone buzzed with another message, this one from an unknown number. This is Rachel. Sandra told me what you did. You're sick. I showed the message to Alex. Sandra's friend thinks I'm sick for installing cameras in my own house. Of course she does. It's easier to blame you than admit her friend is a cheating liar. I typed back, did she tell you about David, Jason, Mike, and Robert, or just the part where I caught her? The response took longer this time. She made mistakes. That doesn't give you the right to spy on her. Actually, it's my house and my bedroom. I have every right to install security cameras. What she chose to do in front of them was her decision. You're disgusting. I put my phone away. Rachel thinks I'm disgusting. Rachel's probably jealous that Sandra managed to juggle 4 guys without getting caught for 6 months. She did get caught. Only because you're smarter than the average husband. Most guys would have just accepted the stressful day at work excuse. We ordered food and continued drinking. The bar got louder and more crowded, but I felt isolated from the noise and activity around me. This morning, I'd been a married man with problems. Tonight, I was a single man with a whole different set of problems. What are you going to do about the house? Alex asked. Sell it, I guess. Split whatever equity we have. That's assuming she agrees to sell. She can't afford the mortgage on her own. She could move one of her boyfriends in. Four-way split on the bills. The thought of David or Jason or Mike or Robert living in my house, sleeping in my bed, using my tools in the garage made my stomach turn. I'd burn it down first. Now you're talking, but arson's illegal and insurance companies are suspicious about convenient fires. I was speaking metaphorically. I know, but the sentiment's valid. That's your house, your space. The idea of some other guy taking over your life is infuriating. It was infuriating. For 8 years, I'd worked to build something with Sandra. A home, a life, a future. She'd been systematically dismantling it while I was at work, bringing other men into our space, our bed, our marriage. The violation felt complete. I need to go home, I said, finishing my beer. You sure? You could crash at my place tonight? No, it's my house. If anyone should be sleeping somewhere else, it's her. What if she comes back? Then we'll have another conversation. Alex looked skeptical. You sure you're ready for that? I'm ready for a lot of things I wasn't ready for this morning. I paid my tab and headed home, driving slowly through the familiar streets of our neighborhood. Every house represented a life, a family, a set of relationships that probably had their own secrets and problems. How many other wives were entertaining visitors while their husbands worked? How many other marriages were built on lies and careful scheduling? The house was dark when I pulled into the driveway. Sandra's car was gone, and the silence felt different somehow. Not peaceful, but empty. I walked through the rooms where I'd watched my marriage disintegrate on camera, seeing everything with new eyes. The living room where David had kissed my wife before leading her upstairs. The kitchen where she'd prepared snacks for Jason after their bedroom activities. The back door that Mike had used to sneak in and out of my house like a teenager avoiding his parents. I went upstairs to the bedroom and looked at the bed where Sandra had betrayed me with 4 different men. The sheets were fresh. She'd changed them this morning before our confrontation, probably out of habit. 8 years of sleeping next to someone, and it turns out I'd been sharing her with half the neighborhood. My phone buzzed with one final message of the day, this one from Sandra. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry. I stared at the message for a long time before typing back, sorry you did it, or sorry you got caught. Her response came quickly. Both. At least that was honest. I deleted the message thread and went to bed alone in my own house for the first time in 8 years. It should have felt lonely, but instead it felt clean. Sunday morning brought an unexpected visitor. I was sitting at the kitchen table, drinking coffee and staring at my laptop screen full of video files, when the doorbell rang. Through the front window, I could see Mike Peterson from next door standing on my porch, looking nervous and uncomfortable. This should be interesting. I opened the door and leaned against the frame. Morning, Mike. Hey, Greg. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other. Can we talk? Sure. What's on your mind? It's about Sandra. What about her? Mike glanced around nervously, as if he was worried the other neighbors might be watching. Look, I know you know. Sandra told me you found out about us. Us? I let the word hang in the air. Is that what you're calling it? I want you to know it wasn't planned. It just happened. I almost laughed. It just happened? Mike, you've been coming over here every Friday afternoon for 6 weeks. That's not something that just happens. That's a standing appointment. His face reddened. I mean, it wasn't supposed to go on this long. How long was it supposed to go on? I don't know. It started when Sandra was upset about your marriage. She needed someone to talk to. And talking led to intimacy in my bed? It wasn't like that. What was it like, Mike? Because I've got it on video if you need a reminder. The color drained from his face. Video? High definition. Great audio quality, too. You're very vocal. Mike looked like he was going to be sick. You recorded us? I recorded my wife in my house. You just happened to be there. That's illegal. Actually, it's not. I have every right to install security cameras in my own home. What you and my wife chose to do in front of them is your business. Mike ran his hands through his hair. Jesus Christ, Greg, you can't show those to anyone. Why not? Because I'm married. Linda doesn't know about any of this. Now I was interested. Linda doesn't know you've been having an affair with our neighbor? It wasn't an affair. It was just, we were helping each other through a rough time. By having intimacy in my bed every Friday afternoon? You don't understand. Sandra was lonely and confused, and I was having problems with Linda. We connected. You connected all right. I've got 43 minutes of video showing exactly how you connected last Friday. Mike's face went through several shades of red before settling on a sickly pale green. What do you want? What do I want? To keep quiet about this. What's it going to cost me? I stared at him for a long moment. Mike, are you trying to bribe me? I'm trying to protect my marriage. By paying me to keep quiet about your affair with my wife? It wasn't an affair. What would you call it? Mike struggled for words. A mistake. A series of mistakes. 43 minutes is a pretty long mistake. Come on, Greg. We've been neighbors for 5 years. Our kids play together. You can't destroy my family over this. I'm not destroying your family, Mike. You did that when you decided to start screwing my wife. It meant nothing. It was just physical. That makes it worse, not better. Mike looked desperate now, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool morning air. What if I told you about the others? What others? The other guys Sandra's been seeing. I know about them. Now I was very interested. What do you know? There's a real estate guy named David. Rich guy, drives a Mercedes. Sandra met him at some coffee shop downtown. What else? There's her trainer at the gym. Young guy thinks he's God's gift to women. And her boss at the fitness center. You know about all of them? Mike nodded miserably. Sandra told me. She said you were neglecting her and she needed to feel wanted. And you were okay with sharing her with 3 other guys? I wasn't sharing her. I thought I was special. I thought what we had was different. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Mike, you were number 3 in a 4-man rotation. You got Friday afternoons because that's when her schedule was open. That's not true. David gets Tuesdays and Thursdays. Jason gets Monday evenings when the gym's closed. Robert gets Wednesday lunch hours. You got Friday afternoons. She had weekends blocked off for her husband. That's me, in case you forgot. Mike's legs seemed to give out. He sat down heavily on my porch steps. She said I was special. I'm sure she told all of you that. The others don't know about me? None of you know about each other. Sandra's very good at compartmentalizing. Mike put his head in his hands. Linda's going to kill me. Linda's going to find out? If you show those videos to anyone, yes. I sat down on the step next to him. Mike, I'm not going to show the videos to anyone. I'm not interested in destroying your marriage or anyone else's. I just want out of mine. Really? Really. But I am curious about something. What? Did you ever wonder why Sandra was available every Friday afternoon? Did you ever ask yourself why a married woman had such a predictable schedule for cheating on her husband? Mike was quiet for a moment. I thought you worked late on Fridays. I work the same hours every day, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. She said you were never home. I'm home every night by 6. She said you didn't pay attention to her. Did she mention the other 3 guys she was paying attention to? Mike shook his head slowly. I feel like an idiot. You should, but not for the reason you think. What do you mean? You feel like an idiot because you got caught. You should feel like an idiot because you helped destroy a marriage and betrayed a neighbor who never did anything to you. Mike looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. I'm sorry, Greg. I really am. No, you're not. You're sorry you got caught. If I hadn't installed those cameras, you'd still be coming over here every Friday afternoon, and you'd never have given me a second thought. That's not true, isn't it? When's the last time you felt guilty about what you were doing? When's the last time you thought about how this might affect me or Linda or our neighborhood? Mike didn't answer. That's what I thought, I said. You were having fun, feeling young and desired and special, and you didn't care about the consequences because you thought there wouldn't be any. I cared. You cared so much that you kept coming back every week for 6 weeks. Mike stood up slowly. What happens now? Now you go home to Linda and figure out how to live with yourself. Are you going to tell her? That's not my decision to make. What do you mean? I mean, you can tell her yourself, or you can wait and see if she finds out some other way. But either way, that's between you and your wife. Mike looked confused. You're not going to say anything? Mike, I've got bigger problems than your guilty conscience. My wife has been cheating on me with 4 different men, and I'm about to go through a divorce. Your marriage problems are your own responsibility. But the videos are evidence of my wife's infidelity. What you choose to do about your part in that is up to you. Mike walked slowly back to his house, his shoulders slumped like a man carrying a heavy weight. I watched him go, feeling a mixture of satisfaction and disgust. Satisfaction because he finally understood what he'd been part of. Disgust because it had taken getting caught for him to feel any remorse at all. My phone rang. Sandra. Hello? Mike just came to see you. Yes, he did. What did you tell him? The truth. That he was part of a 4-man rotation and you'd been lying to all of them. Silence on the other end of the line. Sandra? You had no right to tell him about the others. I had no right? Sandra, you've been cheating on me with 4 different men in our house, and you're worried about their privacy? It's not what you think. What is it then? They're not just random hookups. I care about all of them. All of them? Yes. You care about David and Jason and Mike and Robert? Yes. At the same time? It's complicated. No, it's not. It's actually very simple. You wanted to have your cake and eat it too, so you set up a system that gave you the benefits of being married plus the excitement of having affairs with 4 different men. That's not how it was. How was it? Each of them gives me something different, something I need. What do I give you? Security, stability. And that's not enough? It used to be. I felt something cold settle in my chest. When did it stop being enough? I don't know. Gradually, I guess. We fell into a routine, and the routine became all there was. So, instead of talking to me about it, you decided to find excitement elsewhere. I tried to talk to you. When? Lots of times. I'd suggest we go out or try something new, and you'd say you were tired, or we couldn't afford it, or maybe next weekend. I thought back over the past year, trying to remember conversations like that. She was right. There had been suggestions that I'd dismissed or postponed, but that didn't justify what she'd done. So you decided to go out with other people instead. It wasn't like that. What was it like? I felt alive again. Desired. Important. And now? Now I feel like a fool. Because you got caught? Because I hurt you. Because I destroyed our marriage. Because I don't know how to fix any of it. You can't fix it, Sandra. Why not? Because trust isn't something you can repair with apologies and promises. Once it's broken, it's broken. People get past infidelity all the time. People get past one affair, maybe. They don't get past 4 simultaneous affairs conducted on a schedule in their own bedroom. So that's it? 8 years of marriage and you're just going to throw it away? I'm not throwing it away. You already did that. She was crying again. I love you, Greg. No, you don't. Yes, I do. Sandra, if you loved me, you wouldn't have been able to do what you did. Love doesn't work that way. I made mistakes. 4 mistakes, with names and faces and regular schedules. That's not love, Sandra. That's not even like. That's just selfishness. The line went quiet except for the sound of her crying. I have to go, she said finally. Where? I don't know, somewhere else. What about David, or Jason, or Robert? Don't you have options? They don't want to see me anymore. Why not? Because they found out about each other. Now that was interesting. How did they find out? Mike told Jason. Jason told Robert. Robert told David. And none of them were happy about sharing? They all thought they were special. Imagine that. They called me names, Greg. Horrible names. What did you expect? You lied to all of them just like you lied to me. I never lied to them. You lied by omission. You let each of them think he was the only one. I never said that. You didn't have to. When someone's having an affair, they assume they're special. They don't assume they're part of a rotation. I didn't plan for it to happen this way. How did you plan for it to happen? I don't know. I wasn't thinking that far ahead. That's the problem, Sandra. You weren't thinking at all.